All right, today we're cracking open a file you've definitely seen but maybe never really thought about, the ISO file. Turns out it's more than just a file. It's kind of like a perfect digital blueprint. Let's dig in.
You know what I'm talking about. You're downloading something and you see that file name ubuntu.iso or windows11.iso. It looks like any other big download, right? But it's actually a very special kind of container. So what's really going on inside?
The easiest way to get your head around an ISO is with a really simple analogy. Just picture a physical disk, like a CD or a DVD, being perfectly preserved inside one single digital file.
At its heart, an ISO image is a perfect bit-for-bit digital copy of an entire optical disc. Imagine you could take a DVD and not just copy the movie files, but copy everything, the menus, the chapter structure, the exact layout, and bottle it all up in one file. That's an ISO.
And the key word here really is blueprint. See, it's not just a grab bag of files, it's a blueprint of the entire disk. That includes every file and folder, yeah, but also the exact structure that made the original disk work the way it did.
Okay, so if it's a blueprint, what exactly is drawn on it? Let's zoom in a little and take a look at the anatomy of an ISO image to see what makes it tick.
The magic that makes all this work across different computers is a standard called ISO 9660. You can think of it as the universal language for optical disks. It was designed way back when to make sure that any disk could be read by any computer, whether you're on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. It's the reason it just works.
So an ISO contains a lot more than just your data. I mean, sure, you've got all the original files and folders in there, but you also get the complete file system. That's the map of how everything is organized. And, most importantly, it has something called the boot sector, and that is the secret sauce. That little chunk of data is what gives an ISO its superpower, the ability to start a computer from scratch.
All right, so we've got this perfect digital blueprint of a disk. How do we actually use it? I mean, let's be real, most of our computers don't even have disk drives anymore.
Well, the solution is a clever trick called mounting. Modern operating systems can take an ISO file and basically fool themselves into thinking it's a real physical CD or DVD that you just inserted. Your computer sees a new drive letter pop up, ready to go, but the whole thing is completely virtual, running right from that single file.
And the advantages of doing this are huge. Access is lightning fast, because you're reading right from your hard drive, not a slow, spinning plastic disk. It's so much more convenient, no more digging through dusty binders trying to find an old install CD. Plus, it helps preserve old hardware by not putting any extra wear and tear on actual physical drives. Now let's talk about the most common and frankly the most powerful use for an ISO file, bringing a brand new computer to life by installing an entire operating system. This is where that boot sector we were just talking about becomes the star of the show. When you tell your computer to boot from an ISO, the machine's own firmware, its BIOS or UEFI, scans the image. It finds that special boot sector, which then points it to a tiny program called a bootloader. That bootloader takes over and bam, it kicks off the entire operating system installation. It's just a really elegant and reliable process. And that's exactly why this is so fundamental in computing. Whether you're installing Windows on a new gaming PC or firing up a new version of Linux, the ISO file is the undisputed, universally accepted standard for delivering a complete, bootable operating system. But it's not just for installing from scratch. ISOs are used for all sorts of things. They let you run live environments so you can test drive an OS without actually installing it. They're essential for system recovery disks, for distributing big software suites, and they're basically the lifeblood of virtual machines, acting as their virtual CD or DVD drives.
So we know it's a perfect copy, but what really separates an ISO from, just zipping up a folder full of files? Let's make that key difference totally clear.
Okay, here's the bottom line. A zip file, it's just a bag of files. A convenient bag, but a bag nonetheless. An ISO, on the other hand, is a perfect structural replica. It has the entire file system, and this is the most important part, it can be bootable. A zip file just can't do that. It doesn't have the blueprint, it only has the contents.
Another really important thing to know is that ISOs are almost always read-only. You can't just easily go in and change the contents. Now that might sound like a drawback, but it's actually a feature, not a bug. It guarantees that every single copy is a perfect, unaltered replica of the original, which is exactly what you want for reliable software distribution.
So let's lock in those key takeaways. 1. An ISO is a complete disk image. 2. It's got the full file system and that all-important boot data. 3. You can mount it and treat it just like a real disk.
And 4, it is the gold standard for booting and installing operating systems.
If you remember just one thing, let it be this. An ISO is not just another file taking up space on your drive. It is a complete, self-contained disk, perfectly preserved in digital form.
And that leaves us with one final thought. You know, in a world that's all about streaming and cloud installations, does this humble, self-contained, offline package, the ISO file, still have a timeless role to play? Or is its time as the king of software distribution maybe coming to an end? Something to think about.